This is welcome to Pecan Corner. I'm Tina, and today we're going to make a version of Pan de Muertos, which is a variety of Pan Dulce, a traditional Mexican sweet bread, and it's yeast risen and it's lovely. I'm going to change it up a little bit and use some color to decorate one of the loaves that I make today. This bread is normally served at only one particular little area of Mexico for the feast of the Day of the Dead, which is November 2nd, I believe. So it's around Halloween. It's become very, very popular in the United States in recent years. It's like Cinco de Mayo. It's actually a United States holiday that the advertisers enjoy a lot. But this is lots of fun, and we're going to start by making our topping. I'm making a conchos topping. This I'll use to decorate my bread with, but I'm going to mix it up first and color it and set it aside so it can be chilling while I make my bread. I've got 2 cups of, 2/3 a cup of sugar, a 1/2 cup of butter, and a cup of flour in my bowl. I'm going to just mix them up together. This is going to make a very, very stiff, sweet dough. I'm showing you all of this in the same video because you kind of need to see how it's used, and I have to use this with the other one so that you can get a sense. I made this into earlier this year, back in the summer, and did it in flower pots, and it was so cute. And now, as we're coming up into the fall, it's a perfect time to shake it up a little bit and make it a little bit more traditional. Phone's ringing. Alright, we're still going to make it into a thick paste. I'm going to add just a little bitty bit of milk to thicken it up just a hair. Forgot to get my milk out. About a tablespoon of milk, not very much. I want it to be a very thick paste. We add that in and stir it a little bit. See if that'll bring it together. Might have to add a little bit more. Just depends on your kitchen and the humidity. A lot of things. Sometimes it takes a little bit more and sometimes a little bit less. Okay. We want this to be a very thick paste, like a paste. Very thick dough. Almost like a pie crust. In fact, you could probably use your pie crust dough, but it needs to be sweet. Right, there we go. Yeah. I think you can see how that's come together. Alright, now, since this is for decoration, I'm going to divide this into parts, and I'm going to color it. I have found it's just easy. It's so easy to do this into baggies, and then I can just squeeze it, and I don't get food coloring on my hands. I'm going to save out one pretty large portion of white and not put anything else in that. And then I'll divide the rest of it. I want a pink and a yellow and a blue and a green. But I don't need a whole lot because we just use this for decorative elements. Now then, that's for white. I'll set it over there. I don't get confused and try to color it. I'm going to use just plain regular food coloring. Works great. Make some green here. Just going to use 2 or 3 drops of green. Be really careful when you're using this stuff. You don't want to splatter it or drip it on. You know, I've got a wooden countertop here that I don't want to get this coloring on my counter, and that's one of the reasons that I like doing this in a bag. Your kids can help a little bit more easily too if you're doing this with children in the house. If Adam was here, he could help me do this once I had it in the bags. We want nice pastel colors. And I'm going to put it in the refrigerator and let these cool. And as they cool, they'll harden, and they'll be easier to work with. Okay, here's my green. I'm going to do something kind of interesting with my pink. You can use red food coloring, but since I happen to have prickly pears from where I made prickly pear jelly the other day, and from where I'm going to make that I'm going to use to make prickly pear candies with, I'm going to be really authentic, and I'm going to use a piece of prickly pear fruit to impart some color onto this batch of my conscious decoration. You get this gorgeous magenta color. That looks familiar. This is the same plant that grows the little cochineal bugs live on, that red dye is made out of, that Starbucks was using to color their strawberry drinks with. And everybody, but it's a very natural source, and it's an old-fashioned source. It used to be used to color lipstick and fabric. Lots and lots of fabrics were dyed with this. See how pretty that color is? And this is from the prickly pear fruit. Okay, and I'm going to finish coloring these, and then I'll be back. Okay, all right, I've got all my colors mixed up. You can see I've got pretty colors, so I have 5 to choose from. I'm going to put these in the fridge and let them be cooling. Then I'm going to start my bread. I'm going to take a half a cup of butter. As you can see, for all my care, I still managed to get food coloring all over my fingers. I'll be going around with blue hands. Look like I've already voted. Okay. I'm going to add nearly forgot to put my headscarf on. Keep my hair out of the bread. Alright, there we go. I'm going to add a cup of milk to the pan. We're going to heat this up just gently so that we melt the butter. Just gently there. And while that's heating, rinse out our bowl just in case it might have gotten dusty while it sat there. Alright, we're going to add 6 cups of flour to our bowl. I'm just using a regular all bleached flour. I happen to like Kroger's brand really well. 2, using other flours, and sometimes things don't rise as well. I like this tone. And 6. Right. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of yeast. For this bread, I'm using Fleischmann's instant yeast. You can use regular yeast too. One teaspoon of salt. That was 2 tablespoons of yeast. 1 teaspoon of salt. Adding 4 teaspoons of anise or anise seed. I'm going to measure this over this container. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to add some orange zest. 4 teaspoons of orange zest. You don't have to buy orange zest. I make my own, and you don't have to very thinly slice the orange peels either. As long as you're using oranges from Florida or Texas that have thin skins, just take the peelings, leave the white stuff on there, let them dry naturally, break them into small pieces, let them dry, and then whir them in your little spice grinder, and they make, it makes perfect, wonderful orange zest. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's free. And we're going to add 1/2 cup of sugar. Okay. All right, so let me stir this up. And let me check on my warm milk. It hasn't quite warmed yet. We'll be back in just a second when it's warm. All right, we're back, and I've I've realized in the interim that I made a small error. So we're going to start out with only 2 cups of our flour in our mixing bowl. So I've removed the rest of the flour into a separate bowl here, and then I'll add it back in as we go forward. I'm going to take this over to my KitchenAid stand mixer, and I'm going to add my warm milk and butter. I've also cracked open 8 eggs, and I'm going to add them in as we go. All right. My dough hook on. You can start with a paddle at this stage and then switch to the dough hook after you get more flour in there. I find it's just as easy to just start with my dough hook. It goes ahead and mixes things up just fine. So I've got 2 cups of flour in there, and with the yeast. Normally, when you make this, you would add your 2 cups of flour, your salt, your yeast, your sugar, your fennel seed, and do this up, and then add your eggs, and then add the rest of the flour and the orange zest. Not used to being filmed when I do this, or having so. All right, I'm going to start adding my eggs now. So let them slide off. Couple at a time. Might help to beat the eggs just a little bit. Just just make them a little bit easier to mix up. Break those yolks, especially since these are yard eggs, so they should have nice strong yolks. We use yard eggs that we buy from friends of ours, and oh, they're wonderful. They taste good. They're super fresh, so they last a long time. But we don't let them last that long because we use them. And the chickens are so happy. Their chickens just have wonderful lives. They're well fed, well cared for. They don't fear anything, so they have really, really good lives. Right. I'm going to reduce my speed here and start adding my flour in. Turn it off and add some flour. KitchenAid mixer is a good investment if you're going to do a lot of baking. It's powerful motor. It'll handle your doughs. It saves you a lot of time in kneading. Our son remodeled our cabinet, our kitchen for us a few years ago, and when he did a nice job too. But when Paul's rolling his eyes at Mom here. But when he did, I asked him to raise this cabinet up so that I'd have room for my KitchenAid to sit out on the counter and fit under it, and the coffee pot too. But I've used the mixer so much more now that it sits out, easy to use. I don't have to drag it out from under somewhere else where I used to have to store it. So I really, really appreciate it. And this is one of the last of the ones that were made in America before the company was sold. So if you can get a vintage KitchenAid, they're worth paying for. They're worth paying more for than new ones because they'll last you forever. Also, all the attachments from a vintage KitchenAid will fit on a modern one. Some of the attachments are still great, but I bought Paul a grinder, and the new grinders are not quite as good, I think, as the older ones were. You can get lots of attachments for these. Add the rest of my flour now. There's a shield that you can get for this that'll help keep the flour from spitting out at you, and I probably ought to get one because I find myself standing over them with my hands. I'm going to see if this is enough flour. Sometimes you need to add an extra cup of flour or so. Alright, we're going to let this knead for a while and then we'll be back. Okay, I'm back. I ended up adding about another cupful of flour to the dough. I guess the flour was really dry today, I mean really wet today, and so it took in some more. This little gadget, I found this in Home Depot for doing caulk with, but it's great for using to scrape your dough out. If you don't have a mixer, you can do this by hand and knead it by hand. I wanted to show you. You can see how soft it is. I've gotten it on the. It's still fairly soft. It shouldn't be sticky. You'd knead it for about 10 minutes if you were kneading it by hand, and you want it to be nice and soft. I'm going to oil a bowl and put it in it to rise for 2 hours until it's doubled. You can save your butter papers that your butter comes in, fold them up like that, put them in the freezer, and just pull them out when you need to oil a pan or a bowl. And just one more little way to use up something. Butter's gotten fairly expensive, so every little bit that we can save, rather than switch to a cheaper, inferior product, we want to find ways to make the most use of what we have. We use real butter to cook with, real pure 100% butter, not light butter, not margarine, and it's much healthier for us. Okay, I'll lay my dough in the bowl and then flip it over, and that way it's got a little bit of oil on the top. You've seen all those calendar towels? Now we know what they're for. They're for covering our bread while it rises. All right, I'm back. My bread has risen. It's now looking really great, and I'm ready to get it ready for its second rise. I'm going to make two different shapes today. I'm going to make the traditional Pan de Muertos shape that mimics bones, but I found this fun skull shaped cake pan, and so I'm going to use that and try a little experiment and see how it goes. This is the one I'm going to use my colored concha toppings in. So I'm going to make my shapes and lay them in here before I put my bread in. I have some little small cookie cutters that I'm going to use for this. And I'm using my little cutting board on it because I don't really want to get all that color all over my good board. If you need a little flour, you can use a little bit of flour to, and I'm gonna just press this out. Just roll it out a little bit. I'm working from lightest color to darkest so that I don't have to wash everything in between times. And I forgot to flour my rolling pin. And that was brilliant. I think this is just going to be one of those days. All right, there we go. Now, let's try that again. Oh, so much better. There we go. All right. Doesn't need to be very thick or thin. It's not going to rise. It's just going to stay in place. But it's just going to I'm just going to do some, let's see here. Just going to do some fun shapes. I'm going to cut out a circle, and I've got a hat here, and use my little knife. I'm going to turn that circle into a flower. Just make some cuts on it like that. Okay. I'm going to lay these inside my pan, and then when I get it done, I'll hold it up and let you see it. Hold it up to the camera. And there's my.
Could you move the green bag? It's in the way. Nobody can see what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This is a really sticky dough. If you can get away with making it without having to add any liquid to it, it's a lot easier to work with. Mine today, for some reason, just wasn't coming together. But there we go. Can't even use a cookie cutter. Do you ever have days like that? There's some days that nothing does what you want it to do. And of course, you want your cute side out, your cute side down on these things, because that's the side that's going to show after it has baked. All right. This dough, when you have this colorful dough, you can put it in the freezer and it'll keep indefinitely. Use some of my white here. Make some eye. Make some teeth, maybe. Let's do some teeth out of the white for you. Okay, I'm going to roll roll that into a use my finger to make shapes in it. There we go. Put that down like that. Inside there, see there's teeth imprint in the pan itself. And I'll do the same thing with the bottom one. We'll give him a big old death's head grin here. Lived out in West Texas most of my adult life, and Hispanic influence is very heavy out there. So these kinds of things are lots of fun. I have a nice collection of vintage pottery. And all right, let's see. Now let's do some flowers, some star-shaped pink eyes. Let's try that. We're gonna get some of this pink on there. See how pretty that came out with that prickly pear cactus juice for the color. I just love it. And you don't have to worry about the red dye number 2 or allergies. You can use turmeric to get a good yellow color. One of these days I'll have to do a video on the different natural colors that you can use to in your cooking. Paul's a lot better with color than I am, so I usually go to him when I'm mixing colors or when I'm selecting colors for things, because he just has a better eye for it than I do. I understand the color wheel. I understand that blue and yellow make green, but I don't necessarily understand what shades of color need to go best together. And again, I'm putting my cute sides down. Going to make some leaf shapes with my green. I'm just going to pinch off little pieces, roll them into a little elongated ball and mash them flat. I'm going to make a little ivy length, make a long little rope of green. So I'm going to do that make it look like there's a vine that these leaves are growing on. We'll be back when I get this all together. All right, we're back. I finished decorating the inside of my pan for the skull, and now I'm ready to start with my beautiful dough. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? It just rose up so nice. I'm going to divide it. I'm going to make a traditional loaf as well as my undecorated one. The traditional loaf is, I preheat my oven, 325. I'm going to use my clean bench scraper, and I'm going to divide my dough in half. Then I'm going to also take out a portion of it to decorate the top of the one loaf with. So I guess I better divide it a little bit better than that. Put it into half now. There we go. There, that's better. All right. This one I want to get my little loaf shaped for my skull pan, because I don't want to move the bread after I put it down in that pan on top of that decoration, or the
It should rise down into the other stuff though, right?
It should, yes, but
I know this is an experiment.
But I want to be sure I've covered it all so that it doesn't push it aside as it rises. I guess what I'm saying. I'm not too worried about how the back of it looks, because that should straighten up hopefully as it rises. Okay. There we go. All right. I've got it down in my pan like that. Now, the traditional loaf for the Dia de los Muertos is a round loaf. A boule. We're going to pull it together like this, kind of get the bottom of it together, so we don't want to leave a hole on the inside of it. That bottom together like that. Okay, there we go. I hope you can see that. Is that better? I'm going to set this out of the pan while this one rises, because I don't want, I know this is parchment paper that I'm using to line it with. Alright. Now then, I'm going to, I need a ball for the top, and then I need two, I always have trouble with gauging how much of something I'm going to need. Get it? Ha 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 ha. Okay, these are the bones. I'm going to make this into the bones. I'll make two. Two long. You want kind of rounded, lumpy ends. Using my fingers and stretching it out here. And then I'm going to mash my fingers. See how my fingers kind of mash down in it? Kind of want to make these lumpy kind of bones here. Pinch it together. Needs to be really lumpy. Bumpy. There's one. There's the other one. Making a cross shape on there. And we make this piece. This is our skull bone in the traditional design. Do that little bunching it up again on the bottom. And fit it right there on top. Just a big top knot. Don't want to mash it down too much. Alright, now we're going to let these sit aside until they've risen again. May take about an hour. I want them to be nearly double, not completely double. We'll see you when they're ready. Okay. Alright, as you can see, they're fully risen and they're ready to go in the oven. I'm going to put them in. The oven's heated to 325 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to bake them for 25 minutes and see if they're done. Let me get the timer on. I love my timer. It has helped me so much because without it I burn things all the time. Now, when I take that out of the oven, the traditional loaf with the bones on top, I need to put a glaze on it. So what I have here is I have a 1/4 cup of orange juice. And I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. You can either add some some orange zest to this, but I've got some marmalade here, so I'm going to add a teaspoon of marmalade instead of just plain old zest. I think that'll be very nice, nice touch. But I'm going to cut it up in very small pieces. In marmalade, the peel of the citrus is just candied in that syrup, so that'll be very tasty on the top of this bread. The combination of the orange and the aniseed is such a lovely, lovely flavor. I really liked this when I made it the first time last year. It was so good. All right. Plop. All right, I'm going to mix this up and then I'll have this ready when I take those out of the oven. We'll see. All right, we're back. I just took these out of the oven and we're going to see now what we've got here. Ha ha ha. Looky there. That looks great. I think I'm going to set it back in for a couple minutes while the oven's hot. Let this side get a little brown, and while I put the glaze on the other loaf. That's great. I'm happy with the way that one came out. I may make some more of these to have to take to market. All right. I'm disappointed in this one. The top knot fell off, and it broke when I tried to pick it up to make sure it was done. When you're baking bread, you want to see if it sounds hollow on the bottom to be sure it's done. And when I did that, the whole thing broke. So I'm not real happy with the way this looked to start with. It would have been kind of like that. So I think what I'm going to do is glaze it, and then Paul and I will enjoy this one. But I'm definitely going to use my skeleton pan for more of these. You could bake this in a roll shape like this and just do a little small cross bones and not try to do the top knot. If I do it again, that's what I'll do. I won't do the top knot on top. I'll just do the crossed bones. I'm using my glaze that I made up while it was baking. Put it on there while it's hot immediately after it comes out of the oven. This is a lovely light bread. It's got a nice flavor. It's great with coffee. It makes a really nice, even a quick supper, you know, is what it's kind of traditionally, these sweetbreads, or a quick breakfast. But it's nice little supper is what it would be good for. So you can break them open. It's just as soft as can be. Really tasty. Okay, putting this one back in the oven for just about 4 or 5 minutes after I took it.
Keep talking.
After I took it out of the pan was the perfect thing to do, because now it's got it's kind of tightened up and dried out the top of it a little bit, and it looks great. Doesn't that look great? Just perfect. All right, I hope you'll enjoy this.